TV speaking to Myrna Hague, who is a singer, actress, journalist, and she's accomplished many other things. Myrna Hague, you're a singer, journalist, actress and a vocalist for the Jamaica Big Band and the Jazzmobile. Could you tell me how you became involved in singing and how you started, basically?
That was a long time ago. I started. It was what I wanted to do. It was always what I wanted to do. My family migrated to the United Kingdom when I was fairly small, so I went to school here, and I studied dance and drama at college, and went for an audition. When I was about my first audition, I think I was about 16 or 17. And just basically started, doing auditions and getting small jobs and so on. And by the time I was 22, I had my first tour to Europe, and that tour was it started off as a two-month engagement. It lasted for 6 years, so I lived in Italy for about 6 years, working very hard, but learning a lot and developing my skills, developing my repertoire, developing my style, and so on. And so that was very good. And then I came back to London, continued to do things, and then I was invited to come to Jamaica to participate in something that the actor Charles Hyatt Jamaican actor Charles Hyatt was going to Jamaica to do something. I had met him here in the UK. We had done a couple of theatrical productions together, and he was going back to Jamaica to do something and invited me to participate. So I went to Jamaica, whereupon I met Mr. Bradshaw for the first time, because it was his band that was going to accompany the performance. So we did this show at the Terra Nova. No, was it the Terra? No, not the Terra Nova. It was Courtly Manor, the Courtly Manor Hotel at the time. And then because I didn't know, I left Jamaica so early, and I had felt very, very culturally cut off and not knowing who, what I was. When I was growing up in the United Kingdom in those days, in the 60s, not very many black people were around, not very many black kids were around. I didn't have a lot of friends, and my cultural life and my social life was very disjointed, because I was always the only black person everywhere I went. In school I was the only black kid, and even performing, I was always the only black person everywhere. So you become very disjointed and very culturally dislocated. So that, going back to Jamaica at that time, was an opportunity that presented itself for me to reconnect with my cultural identity. And so I started going back to Jamaica every winter. That year when I went was in the middle of summer, and it was horrendously hot, and I absolutely hated it because of the heat. I was so uncomfortable. But my parents had gone back to Jamaica by then, and I was actually living by myself in the UK. So when I went back to Jamaica, I talked with my mom and so on, and she said, well, why don't you come again in the winter when it's cooler, and you'll probably do better. So I skipped a year and went back the following winter. And because of the show that I had done with Charles Hyatt and Sonny Bradshaw 7 and so on, some people remembered me, and I was invited to do a couple of things in a couple of hotels. And it was good. I enjoyed it, and I thought, well, this is something that can probably work. And then I discovered that the tourist season in Jamaica was very busy, from say December through to say March, that kind of thing. And so I came back the following year, and dived straight into the tourist season, you know, performing. And by that time, people, you know, had gotten to know about me and so on. And I got a few calls, and I got requests to work and so on. And so I actually worked the entire winter season, and got very excited about that. And so I started that kind of pattern of working in Jamaica every winter and then coming back to Europe every summer.
What a life.
Well, I was lucky because my parents were there. It wasn't like I had to find somewhere to live and so on, you know. And my parents were living in Ocho Rios, which is right in the middle of the North Coast. And at the same time, Jamaican singer Totlin Jackson, who I had also met here in the UK, was doing something similar. She was going back and forth as well. And she was very supportive, you know, very supportive and very encouraging. And I felt that, well, you know, as an older lady and an older singer, and she was doing it, and she was doing very well, and so on. So I felt, yeah, I could do that. So I did that for a few years, and then the balance began to shift. Not an awful lot was happening for me. I had gotten tired of doing Italy. I was doing the continental circuit. I was working in Italy, in Holland, in Austria, the Middle East, and so on. And I was working very hard. It was, you know, like 3 shows a night sometimes.
Hard work.
Yeah, 3 shows a night, 6 nights a week, for you know, all year, except for the months when I went to Jamaica. And then I was doing, you know, a similar kind of thing. I was working every night, 6 nights a week, 5, 6 nights a week in Jamaica. Just 1 show a night, but long shows, because we were doing 45-minute shows every night, and driving back and forth from, you know, town to town to town and so on. So I got kind of tired of doing the continental circuit. It was going around a never-ending, you know, ever-decreasing circle, and I didn't feel like my career was going anywhere particularly. So the balance shifted. I began to work more in Jamaica and less in Europe. And finally, I kind of migrated, as it were. You know, it was a very slow process, but that's really what happened. So that I took up residence in Jamaica for a long time. And my career there began to evolve into something more. And over time, I began to perform with the Jamaica Big Band. I was invited by Mr. Bradshaw, who was then who was and still is
the man
conductor of the Jamaica Big Band. I was invited to perform with the band, and that proved to be very exciting because I had many years before I had imagined myself doing that, and I had actually gotten some big band arrangements written. I had them written and I had them stashed away. So when the opportunity came, I pulled out my arrangements and said, you know, could you have a look at these and see if they could be of any value? And he looked at them and he said, yes, we can use these.
What an achievement!
So it worked. It was great because I actually had material that could be used without him having to write stuff for me from scratch. And so that was something interesting for me to do. And then television came. Yes, Jamaican producer Buddy Paulette had a series of shows on JBC television, that's Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation television, called Impulse. And he invited me to participate in that. I think, actually, let me backtrack a little bit, because I think the first thing that I did for Paulette was the Carifesta. He was one of the producers of the Carifesta, which is the Caribbean cultural festival, which involves all of the Caribbean islands. And every 4 years, I don't think it's happening anymore, but at that time it was happening every 4 years. It was a Caribbean Festival of the Arts. And every 4 years, one island would host it, and all the other islands would bring their people, their artistic people, whether dancers, singers, painters, theater, everything, and present it in a week-long forum of activities. And Jamaica was hosting it. It was in the early 70s. It could have been, I don't remember the exact year, but perhaps you could look it up yourself. But it was the early 70s. And I was asked to perform in that. And I think it was because, I don't remember why or how, but I think Buddy had seen my work. And Mr. Bradshaw I had worked with him as well, so I was asked to do Carifesta, and that was very, very exciting because it meant that I had to do 3 original Caribbean songs, and a young trumpeter named Michael Holding, who is a brother of the cricketer. Is Michael the cricketer, or Michael is the cricketer, and it was his brother. What was his name? What's Holding's name? I can't remember his name. But anyway, he was a wonderful piano player and trumpeter, and I had worked with him. He was the band leader at one of the hotels that I had worked with. And he had written a number of songs, and I said to him, I have to do this Carifesta thing, and, have you got a song? And he did, and he had a song, and he wrote a big band arrangement of it for me. And so I had that. And then I went into the archives because I had to do something Caribbean. And coming from the UK, I didn't know any Caribbean songs. I didn't know anything about my own culture. It was a total disaster, but it was an opportunity for me to learn.
Yeah,
so I went into JVC Studios and crawled through the archives of material and found a song that was absolutely perfect, because it turned out to be the song that we know as Yellow Bird, but which is in fact a Haitian song called Shukun.
Oh.
So it was just perfect. So I learned that, and I think Mr. Bradshaw did an arrangement of it for me as well, a big band arrangement of that. So I did that. I did Shukun, and I can't remember what else I did, but I know I did 3 pieces, and that was my presentation for Carifesta. And it was just a great big hit. Yes, yes. And so after that, when Mr. Paulette had his TV series called Impulse, he invited me to be a guest on that. And so I was a guest on that. And the success of that one appearance led to me having my own series. I had my own series of shows called An Evening with Myrna Hague.
Oh, excellent.
I was really good. And so I did quite a bit of television. I did some of the teenage shows, because I was still quite young enough to look like I was a teenager. So I got to do some of the pub shows. I got to do quite a bit of television as a result of that. And so my career kind of just opened up. And then around about that same time, I also made a record for Studio One, which is the very well-known popular music studio that everybody knows about today. The producer, Coxsone, sent for me, as it were, and said, come and do something. So I did a number of singles for him, and I did one album for him. It was an interesting experience again, because I worked with a lot of people who have subsequently become very important, and I learned to sing reggae, which I had not done before.
Oh, wow. This is Paulette on FiveEyes.tv speaking to Myrna Hague.
So this was my chance. I learned to sing reggae.
Oh
yes, yes. I learned to sing reggae. Became aware of it as a form. I never chose to become a reggae singer. It wasn't what I wanted to be. I liked it, and I liked learning to sing it, and I wanted to include it in my repertoire, but I didn't want to pigeonhole myself
as a reggae singer.
Yeah. So the album that we eventually did was very broad-based, because I did a number of standards as well as some reggae things. And interestingly enough, right now, that album is currently very, very popular again. It is creating a lot of interest. And as a result of the renewed interest in that album, I have been touring in the last couple of years with the Jazz Jamaica Big Band here in the UK, and reprising some of the material from that album. full circle, and it turned out to have been a good thing at the time. So my career kind of evolved and grew, and then as time went on, I began to write. I began to write articles for the Gleaner, for the Jamaica Gleaner, and just really getting on with the business of performing and living. Currently, right in this moment, in addition to performing and touring, I am working on my PhD, and I'm on the last leg of it. I hope to get it out of my system soon, and I'm writing really on jazz in the Caribbean.
What an achievement!
So, well, I haven't achieved it yet.
Well, you will.
But the achievement part of it was the fact that I took myself back to school.
Exactly.
And did my bachelor's, which I had not done before. Did my bachelor's as an adult student, as a mature student, and came through with flying colors because I got a first class honors, which, you know, my mother was very pleased about.
That's fantastic.
And so everybody encouraged me and said, well, you can't just stop there, you have to go on. So I'm, you know, on the last leg of the doctorate. So there we are.
That's fantastic. So I just want to ask you, in the early days,
I talk a lot, don't I?
I think that's wonderful. Who inspired you in the early days?
The singers and the performers that inspired me then and are still out there in front of my eyes when I think of the kind of performer that I still want to be is Lena Horne, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. In the UK it was Cleo Lane, you know. All of the beautiful black performers were my role models.
So have you had a chance to work with anyone of
Oh
those
no, they're like too far. Well, they were mostly Americans, really, you know, and so I saw them on television, I saw them on film, I read about them, and because at that time we didn't have any black role models in the UK,
right.
you know, so Shirley Bassey and Cleo Lane came along, but then you know, they were stars so early, you know. Both of them became major stars in their teens. I think Shirley Bassey made her first big hit when she was 19, and Cleo pretty much the same when she started working with Johnny Danforth. So, you know, they were too far ahead, and by the time I went off to Italy and then came back again, so our paths just never crossed.
You sent a wedding invitation to everyone, but me. You said I love you, darling, but you forgot. Can't you see? I didn't want to cry at the time, but you really blew my mind.
This is Paulette on FiveEyes.tv speaking with Myrna Hague. But Myrna, I'm sure you've inspired loads and loads of people.
I like to
And
think
you still
so.
do.
I like to think so because I taught at the Jamaica School of Music for a number of years, and I love teaching, and I like to think that I gave my students as much of myself as they were willing to take. So I think that, and then I also was secretary of the Musicians Union for a number of years, and I think that I gave good service to help to break down some of the barriers that existed in the music, because there was a time when it was you couldn't get a changing room. You know, the hotels made it so difficult for performers to get a changing room. You couldn't get a changing room. You couldn't get to eat. There were all kinds of prejudicial treatment that were meted out to performers, and because I was a success and they had to give me what I wanted because they wanted my services, I used that as a lever to open up the door for others. So I think that I did good. I hope I did good, and I hope I did good as a teacher, and I hope that for all of those youngsters, because one of the problems that I think that I have noticed is that people still want to pigeonhole you. People still want to say to young performers, you have to be this or you have to be that, and youngsters, especially girls, are not allowed to dream big dreams, not allowed to see themselves in any other light beyond what other people say they should be. So if I can continue to be, you know, that kind of beacon that says, yeah, you don't have to be that, you can be this. You don't have to be that, you can be this. You know, you can be.
Well, this is it.
Whatever.
Who you want to be, really.
Yes. Don't look at. I remember we did a show. We did a musical, a cabaret musical, called Not So Boulevard, where I designed the costumes and choreographed the thing myself, and Mr. Bradshaw wrote a lot of the arrangements, and we you know, it was a 45-minute cabaret, song and dance kind of thing, very sophisticated, very, very, very upmarket. And we made a videotape of it. And when I lost some of the dancers and I wanted to get some new dancers to replace the ones that were in the show, and a couple of young ladies came to the house and I said, I want you to see the video so that you can see what it is that you're expected to do. And this young lady looked at the video and she said to me, so where'd that come from? That come from foreign? You know, she couldn't believe that a production like that had been done in Jamaica by Jamaicans. You know, and I said, but you know, all of these dancers are Jamaican dancers. We're all of us are musicians, everybody. So there's that perception that anything that is above a certain level has to have been done elsewhere. It couldn't have been done in Jamaica. It's not Jamaican. So we have to get past that, you know. And so I just hope that as long as I keep going, I can make it possible for people to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, thank you very much, Myrna. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
And you too. Thank you so much. Falling in love with love is falling for make-believe. Falling in love with love is playing the fool. Caring too much is such juvenile fancy. Learning to trust is just for children in school. I fell in love with love one night when the moon was high. I wasn't wise with eyes unable to see. I fell in love with love everlasting. But love fell out with me.
You sent a wedding invitation to everyone but me.